In the summer of 2022, the Polish Minister of Defense made a frantic, secure-line phone call to Berlin. The geopolitical sky was falling. Russian tanks were grinding through Ukraine, pulverizing cities and erasing borders. Warsaw, knowing its history and knowing it was next on Putin's list, needed armor. They didn't need PowerPoint presentations or promises of future development. They needed hundreds of main battle tanks, and they needed them now. They asked Germany, the supposed industrial powerhouse of Europe, the inventor of the Blitzkrieg, for Leopard 2s. The Leopard 2 is legendary. It is the gold standard of NATO armor. But the German response was a polite, bureaucratic version of, take a number. Berlin explained that the production lines were cold. They said the supply chain for complex optics and gun barrels was backed up for years. They said the order books were full with trickle-feed contracts. They said, essentially, wait 5 years. Poland couldn't wait 5 years. Poland couldn't wait 5 months. So, they hung up the phone on Berlin and called Seoul. What happened next sent a shockwave through the global defense industry that is still vibrating today. Within months, not years, months, the first batch of K2 Black Panther tanks and K9 Thunder howitzers was rolling off a massive transport ship in the Polish port of Gdynia. South Korea didn't just fill the order, they flooded it. They delivered more heavy armor to NATO's eastern flank in 1 year than German industry had managed to produce in a decade. This was the German shock. It was the moment the West realized a terrifying truth: we have forgotten how to build things. The United States and Europe have de-industrialized. We have focused on high-tech R&D, software, and financial services, while letting our forges go cold, our welders retire, and our assembly lines rust. But South Korea never stopped. Living next door to a nuclear-armed madman in Pyongyang, they never swallowed the peace dividend pill. They kept their factories running hot. They kept their supply chains sovereign. They kept preparing for total war every single day for 70 years. Today, South Korea is no longer just a client of the West. They are the industrial salvation of the West. They are the arsenal of democracy 2.0. And if you think this is just about tanks in Europe, you are missing the bigger picture. They are coming to save the US Navy from its own logistical death spiral, and they are already building the backbone of the Australian Army. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we're dissecting the industrial miracle that is keeping the free world armed. Here is the thesis for this episode. The United States is the lab, South Korea is the factory. The US builds the silver bullets, the B-21 Raiders, the Virginia-class nuclear submarines, the F-35 Lightning IIs. These are exquisite, expensive, stealthy, and incredibly slow to build. They are the Ferraris of war. But you cannot fight a high-intensity war with silver bullets alone. You need a shield. You need mass. You need thousands of tanks to hold the line. You need hundreds of destroyers to patrol the trade routes. You need millions of artillery shells to suppress the enemy. The US industrial base is broken. It is rusted, consolidated, and expensive. It cannot produce mass. South Korea can. We are going to break down the Chaebol secret, the unique industrial model that allows companies like Hanwa and Hyundai to build warships faster than anyone on Earth. We are going to look at the massive redback deal in Australia, where Korean efficiency defeated German prestige. And we will analyze the historic acquisition of American shipyards by Korean firms, a move that signals a fundamental shift in how the Western Alliance sustains its power. We are watching the formation of a new grand bargain in the Western Alliance. American innovation backed by Korean industrial might. If you're starting to grasp why a shipyard in Ulsan matters just as much to your security as a tech hub in Silicon Valley, hit that like button and subscribe to Doctrine of War. We're breaking down the logistics of survival, the death of the peace dividend. To understand why South Korea is winning, we have to understand why the West is losing. It starts with the peace dividend. For 30 years since the Berlin Wall fell, the West has operated on the just-in-time efficiency model. We treated weapons manufacturing like a boutique luxury business. We built things by hand in small batches for export clients who might buy 20 or 30 units over 5 years. Take the German Leopard 2 tank. It is a masterpiece of engineering. But Krauss-Maffei-Wegmann, the manufacturer, was building them at a trickle. The supply chains were brittle. When the war in Ukraine broke out and nations started donating their tanks to Kiev, the backfill requirement was massive. Every nation in Europe suddenly needed 100 tanks immediately. But you cannot just flip a switch on a tank factory. The specialized steel foundries had closed. The skilled welders had moved to the automotive sector. The tooling was gone. This is the atrophy of peace. We optimized for profit and efficiency in a peaceful world, leaving us vulnerable in a dangerous one. South Korea lives in a different reality. The Korean War never technically ended. The armistice is just a pause. For 70 years, Seoul has lived within artillery range of the largest artillery force in the world. The North Korean threat means that for South Korea, demilitarization was never an option. Because of this, South Korea treats defense production not as a business, but as a condition of national survival. They maintain hot production lines. They never let the factories cool down. If the domestic army doesn't need tanks this year, the government buys them anyway and puts them in storage, or they push exports aggressively to keep the workforce trained and the machines running. The Polish Blitz, a technical triumph. When Poland came calling, South Korea was ready. The deal was staggering: 1,000 K2 Black Panther tanks, 672 K9 Thunder self-propelled howitzers, 48 Fa-50 light combat aircraft, and 288 K239 Chunmoo rocket launchers, the Korean equivalent of HIMARS. The total value is estimated at over $15 billion. But the speed was the real weapon. The contract was signed in July 2022. The first tanks and howitzers arrived in Poland in December 2022. 5 months. In the US or Germany, 5 months is how long it takes to schedule the first meeting to discuss the font size on the contract. How did they do it? They diverted equipment destined for the Republic of Korea (ROK) Army. The Korean government made a strategic calculation. The threat in Europe is real right now. We can wait a few months for our own replacements. They prioritized the alliance over their own immediate stockpiles because they knew the factory could replenish them quickly. But more importantly, let's talk about the K2 Black Panther itself. This isn't a cheap knockoff. It is arguably the most advanced tank in the world. It has an autoloader, so it only needs a 3-man crew, advanced optics, a hunter-killer capability that rivals the M1 Abrams, and a hydropneumatic suspension system that allows the tank to kneel or lean to fire over ridgelines, a feature designed for the mountainous terrain of Korea. It is also NATO compatible. It talks to US systems. It fires NATO standard 120mm ammunition. Poland realized they could get a tank that was 95% as capable as the best German armor, for a lower price, delivered immediately with full technology transfer so they could eventually build them in Poland, the K2PL variant. This destroyed the European monopoly on armor. Norway, Finland, Estonia, Romania, they are all looking at Korean kit. The fortress of Europe is being built with Korean steel because German steel was too slow to arrive. Civil-military fusion, the superyard model. So what is the magic trick? Is it cheap labor? No. South Korean wages are high. They are an advanced economy. The secret is the Chaebol model and civil-military fusion. In the West, we have defense contractors. Companies like General Dynamics or Lockheed Martin mostly do one thing: defense. They live on government contracts. They are insulated from the real market. If the government stops buying destroyers, the shipyard closes. In South Korea, the companies building weapons are the same companies dominating the global commercial market. Take Hyundai Heavy Industries, HHI, and Hanwa Ocean, formerly DSME. These are the 2 largest shipbuilders in the world. They build the massive LNG carriers that power Tokyo and Beijing. They build the container ships that move the world's trade. In a Korean shipyard, the scale is mind-boggling. You will see a commercial supertanker being welded in Dry Dock 1. In Dry Dock 2, right next to it, is a Sejong the Great-class Aegis destroyer, a ship more heavily armed than a US Arleigh Burke. This is the cheat code. Because they are building hundreds of commercial ships, they have massive buying power for steel. They buy steel by the megaton, getting prices the US Navy can't touch. They have thousands of qualified welders who rotate between commercial and naval projects. They have the latest robotic gantry cranes and automated welding snakes. They have economies of scale that a pure defense contractor can only dream of. When the Korean Navy orders a destroyer, the shipyard doesn't have to hire new workers or build a new shed. They just shift the workforce from the commercial line to the naval line. They use the same supply chain for engines, pumps, and electronics where possible. This allows them to launch destroyers at a fraction of the cost and time of the US. The US Navy takes 5 to 7 years to build a destroyer. South Korea does it in 3 to 4, and the ship costs half as much. The Hanwa juggernaut in Australia. We have seen this Chaebol efficiency land right here in our region. Look at what Hanwa is doing in Australia. The Australian Army needed a new infantry fighting vehicle IFV to replace the ancient M113S. It was a brutal competition known as Land 400 Phase 3. The contenders, the German Rheinmetall Lynx versus the South Korean Hanwha Redback. On paper, the German rig was the favorite. Germany is the traditional partner. Rheinmetall was already established. But Hanwa came in with a hunger that stunned Canberra. They didn't just offer a vehicle, they offered an industry. They built a massive armored vehicle center of excellence in Geelong, Victoria. They partnered with Elbit Systems for the turret. They designed the Redback specifically for Australian needs. Better armor, better suspension, active protection system standard. And they won. The multi-billion-dollar contract went to Hanwa. This is significant because Australia is a Tier 1 Western military. We don't buy junk. We buy the best. By choosing the Redback, Australia validated Korean tech for the rest of the world. And look at the Huntsman project, the K9 self-propelled howitzers being built in Geelong. These are not being shipped from Ulsan. They are being manufactured in Victoria using Australian steel and Australian workers. This is the Korean offer: we won't just sell you the fish, we will build the pond and teach you how to fish. They are willing to transfer technology in a way the US and Germany are often reluctant to do. They understand that sovereign capability is the selling point. Hanwa Defence Australia is now a major player in our local defence industry, employing Aussies, utilizing local supply chains, but powered by that relentless Korean pally-pally, hurry-hurry culture of getting things done. The crisis of American shipbuilding. Now we get to the most critical part of the story. The industrial salvation of the United States Navy. The US Navy is in crisis. This is an open secret. They cannot build ships fast enough to keep up with China, and worse, they cannot repair the ships they have. At any given moment, nearly 40% of the US attack submarine fleet is sitting in dry dock waiting for maintenance. They are hangar queens. What? Because the US public shipyards, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Pearl Harbor, Puget Sound, are overwhelmed. They are old. The equipment is from the Cold War. They lack skilled workers because a generation of welders retired and wasn't replaced. The US private shipbuilding industry is effectively dead for large commercial vessels. The Jones Act, a law from 1920, protected them from foreign competition, which ironically made them uncompetitive. It removed the incentive to innovate. They build expensive ships for a captive domestic market and zero ships for the global market. The US Navy is staring at a tonnage gap with China that is widening every day. China launches the equivalent of the entire French Navy every 4 years. The US launches a handful of ships. The Pentagon realized they needed a lifeline. They couldn't build their way out of this hole alone. They looked at Japan and they looked at South Korea. The Philly takeover, a historic pivot. In 2024, the unthinkable happened. Hanwa Ocean bought the Philly shipyard in Philadelphia for $100 million. This is a historic moment. A South Korean defense giant now owns a major American shipyard. Some protectionists screamed, "Foreign takeover." But the Pentagon quietly popped the champagne corks. Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro has been actively touring Korean shipyards, begging them to invest in the US. What? Because Hanwa is bringing the K-shipbuilding playbook to Pennsylvania. They are bringing the robotics, the digital twin technology, and the management processes that make Ulsan the shipbuilding capital of the world. Hanwa didn't buy Philly to build container ships. They bought it to bid on US Navy contracts. They want to build the supply ships, the frigates, and potentially repair the destroyers that the US yards can't handle. They are injecting efficiency into a moribund American system. And it goes deeper. The US Navy has signed Master Ship Repair Agreements, MSRA, with Hanwa and HHI in South Korea. This means US Navy ships operating in the Pacific are no longer sailing all the way back to Seattle or San Diego for repairs. They are pulling into George and Ulsan. Imagine the USS Benfold, DDG-65, pulling into a Hanwa dock. A swarm of Korean workers descends on it. They fix the hull, upgrade the sensors, and repaint it in weeks, not months. The ship is back on patrol in the Taiwan Strait while its sister ship is still waiting for a dry dock in San Diego. This is a force multiplier. It effectively increases the size of the US fleet by increasing availability. If a ship spends less time in repair, it spends more time fighting. This is not an invasion of American sovereignty. It is a rescue mission. The Koreans are saving the US Navy from its own logistical death spiral. They are providing the industrial depth that the US lost. And the US is reciprocating. The US is championing Korean weapons sales to NATO. It is a symbiotic relationship. The US provides the nuclear umbrella and the high-end space assets. Korea provides the industrial mass and the shipyard capacity. The division of labor. What we are witnessing is the emergence of a new strategic division of labor in the Western Alliance. For a long time, the US tried to do everything. It tried to build the best tanks, the best ships, the best planes, and the best ammo. It can't anymore. The budget isn't there and the workforce isn't there. So, the new model looks like this. The United States builds the crown jewels. The B-21 Raider stealth bomber. The Virginia and Columbia-class nuclear submarines. The next-generation air dominance, NGAD, fighter. The AI-driven kill webs. These are low-volume, high-tech, high-cost systems that define strategic deterrence. They are the tip of the spear. South Korea, and to an extent, a rearming Japan, builds the shield. The K-2 tanks. The K-9 artillery. The Redback IFVs. The frigates and destroyers. The mass-produced munitions. These are the systems you need in the thousands to hold the line against a conventional invasion. They are the shaft of the spear. This is the ultimate partnership. It combines the exquisite innovation of Silicon Valley and the Skunk Works with the relentless mass production of Ulsan and Changwon. The unbeatable alliance. This video started with the concept of industrial salvation. It's a strong term, but it's for watching Doctrine of War. Do you think the US should rely this heavily on an ally for its ships, or is it a national security risk to outsource the Navy? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay realistic, and we'll see you in the next one.